want to steal your ideas particularly because, in fairness, I think hotels are really peculiar places. They make people inside them do peculiar things, particularly including sportsmen. And also, I was trying to certainly. I mean, I've been to the Montfort Library more than once in my first year, so and I can't. For several hours, I didn't just walk in and go out. I just just like this, I do, yeah. There's no, certainly in the De Montfort Library, there was no history of hotels, so I'd be keen to know, is there like an academic box, a sort of method that you can put hotels into? Because I don't think, I can't come up with one, and certainly there's no ism, does Marxism have anything to say about hotels, or is there a sociology of hotels? Which might sound a bit sort of wacky, but as I say, because hotels, you're never going to get a sportsman, or indeed anybody, writing a book about my 100 favourite hotel rooms, or my favourite nights in hotels, or maybe you will, but from certain people. But so I have to give you quite a bit of sort of dump a lot of anecdotes or stories on you. But first, I just wanted to show you a couple of illustrations. And I'm going to see how it looks from here. But, yes, just to explain, these are two postcards, and the top one is from Liverpool Street Hotel, main entrance it says. So the sign on there says smoking and billiard rooms. So the point I want to get across from the top postcard is that how at once a hotel is a domestic space, and it isn't, because you can sit down, you can have a meal, you can play billiards. So it may well be that a hotel is sort of like a super home. It has amenities that your own home doesn't have. And obviously you can sleep, but it's not your home because you've just rented it for the night or for the week or the season even. So straight away there's something peculiar about that, because it's a neutral social space. It's a space where lots of different people just happen to be under the same roof because they've chosen the same place and paid the money. And yet, although, as I say, hotels don't fit into society, they're sort of neutral spaces. I can use it now because Paul Newsham, speaking to me yesterday, described hotels as liminal spaces, and I'm not entirely sure what the word liminal means, so hopefully you know, but as I understand it, it's sort of a marginal space, like a railway station, where you do belong and you don't belong at the same time. And yet hotels are absolutely central to modern urban life. Again, to give you another London example, here's the Strand. I guess it's Edwardian because the transport's horse-drawn. You've got Charing Cross itself, and you've got Charing Cross Station, and on top you've got Charing Cross Hotel. So, like the railways, hotels for the railway traveller, whether for business or pleasure, absolutely central to life from Victorian time onwards. As I say, I'm going to dump some anecdotes on you now, just to sort of get some sort of material on the table, as it were. No, I'm not.
Down there,
Down.
There you go.
Thank you. Just to explain this, WG stands for W.G. Grace. So he's very much, in 1890, the most famous cricketer, the most famous Englishman on the planet. So he's like stories about W.G. Grace are like at that time were like stories about the football manager Brian Clough now, that if you've got an anecdote about W.G. Grace, you put it in your memoir. And to explain it, so Harry Preston was a hotelier. Is that the right pronunciation? Hotelier? He started in the pub trade in London, then he got his break at the Grand at Bournemouth, and then he made his name and his money in Brighton. I'm just reading it myself. So just to explain that W.G. Grace and his team are Gloucestershire, so at that time they're pretty much all amateur players, so they're doctors like Grace himself, other maybe private school teachers, Oxford students, so they're well mannered and well brought up, expensively educated people, yet as you can see they're having a lark late at night. And just to, because I ran out of room on the slide, just to explain tell a bit more of the story as Preston told it, that people, as you can understand, there's like a dozen or more men were thumping up and down the stairs. People came to the doors of their rooms, wondering what on earth is going on, wondering if there's a fire and whether people are evacuating. And according to Preston, all those sort of worried guests woken up in the middle of the night were explained that the Gloucestershire team were just having some exercise, some practice. So the point of that story is that, as I say, not only are hotels peculiar places, there's a lot of tension between the guests who are under the same roof, and very easy for one person to spoil the peace and quiet of somebody else. To explain this story, Bill Andrews was a professional fast bowler for Somerset. So this is really the other side of life in cricket, that just how hard life was, and how as if it wasn't hard enough to play the game, that having quite a distance away, Paddington, from the Kennington Oval, south of the river. So 4 men with 2 beds. As it was, in more innocent days, there's absolutely no sexual suggestion. But the reason why Harold Gimlet had the only bed, again, was a very pragmatic reason for that. Although Gimlet was a newcomer to the team and was very much the junior, the idea was that let the batsman get the best night's sleep, so that the following day, hopefully the batsman would bat for a long time, so Bill Andrews and the other bowlers would have as long a time as possible to put their feet up before they had to go out and bowl and field again. And then we fast forward to the international elite of today. This is from the book that Michael Clarke, the Australian captain, brought out after his side lost two summers ago. Unfortunately, it doesn't say. Unfortunately, it doesn't go into any detail about how his beautiful wife takes his mind off cricket. But maybe we can leave that unsaid. But so the change now is that certainly at the international, the elite level, that you've got, well, you've just got a lot more money, so that it's quite away from Durham to Gateshead. So you've got, now in contrast to Bill Matthews, and his players in that era having to go under their own steam to the accommodation that they find themselves. You've got, they're playing cricket at Durham, then they're going on their coach back to Gateshead, and there they have, they've got their wife or girlfriend, so that they, the idea being that they have something domestic, that they can sort of be happier in that. Typically on a tour of England, just as when England teams go abroad in our winter, you could be away for months at a time, living out of a suitcase from one hotel to the other. So the idea is, if you bring your loved ones with you, that you can have something of a family life. But even there, to go back to the first slide, it's still not a real domestic life, because you're in a hotel, and so you can imagine the sort of stresses and friction that you can have between a couple that you know, in a hotel room. You know, what does the wife get up to while the husband's at work playing cricket? So even though cricket, because it's got wealthier and more enlightened, it's brought, it's tried to do something for the cricketers to make them more at home. It's still not working. I was going to say it's a shame that Jean-Francois is not here, but in a way it is for the best that he's not here, because he can't criticise my pronunciation of Georges Carpentier. So this is Charing Cross again. Fistic history was made. Again, I have no idea what exactly fistic means, but obviously it's boxing. It was here in July 1914 that Carpentier came from France, came over the Channel, took the train to Charing Cross, and then I think you mentioned that yesterday that so he arrived on the street, got into a horse and carriage, but a sort of crowd of admirers, who I think interestingly included a lot of French sort of hotel waiters and the like, who were working in London, sort of greeted him, and to sort of show their respect for the man, they unhitched the horses and pulled, sort of got into the shafts and pulled Carpentier through the streets, or rather just down the road to where he was staying, the Hotel Metropole. And as you can see, if that's Nelson's column, then really it's just over the road from Charing Cross Station. So you've got hotels very much part of the social geography in the modern city of railway station, and hotel is a base for where you do your maybe do your training, your final training, and then you go to the venue, have your boxing fight, and then you go home again with the money, in Carpentier's case. Just to explain what I was saying there, that again, another postcard. These are the three famous Yorkshire cricketers: Schofield Haig, George Hurst, and Wilfred Rhodes. Says that a guest house at outside Huddersfield in 1905. So unfortunately it doesn't say why they're there, although that's their part of the world. So it's interesting that staying in guest houses, staying in hotels is part of the cricketer's life, and you know, they're at some pains to show their respectability, because you can't quite see it, but it's very interesting that George Hurst is very careful to show, you know, have his jacket showing his watch and chain, sort of like the symbol of the respectable man, you know, very time conscious. Yeah, just to add, I'd say just one more peculiar thing about hotels is that you think of all the Hollywood films that have hotels in them, because they're ideal for moving a plot along, aren't they? You can get the plot moving along by having people meet in a hotel. I mean, is there a James Bond film that doesn't have a hotel scene? So hotels are, you know, very much central to popular culture in fiction, but in fact, so in social science, in history, it's the opposite. Now, this is a source that I got in Manchester. I got it from a cardboard box in a second-hand bookshop over the road from the Arndale Centre, and this interview, handwritten, was in the box. So hopefully it's not like a sort of pilt-down man sort of hoax, but hopefully it's genuine. So this is again, I just thought it's interesting to show the difference between amateurs and professionals. That typically you had your amateur captain who was separate from sort of commoner professional who played cricket for pay. It was interesting that when Brian Sellers, the amateur captain of Yorkshire, began in 1932, at this first match at Oxford against Oxford University in 1932, he's been invited by one of the professionals to sort of mix with the rest of the team by changing hotels, and also gets to meet players from the other team. Just to mention on this slide about just to hark back to the talk I did at the British Sports History last year about selection of teams, which I think is a really under researched subject. This idea of a good tourist, the idea that you not only picked, say for an England team because of actual ability, there's another factor is whether you fit in on tour, whether you're not a troublemaker, you know, whether you don't insult local dignitaries. And then just to go back to how peculiar and ironic even hotels are these days, how much more difficult it is in the days of luxury hotels now to actually be happy inside them, because I mean, several contemporary players have spoken about this, notably Marcus Trescothick, who actually left Australia as a tearful wreck in 2006, because he, as you can see, he just couldn't stand being away from home. Just to bring us up to date, that's the Hilton at Wembley. And last autumn, when Slovenia played football, after they lost 3-0, the Slovenian manager spoke of how he and his team, they wanted to come out of the hotel and walk to Wembley, and it's only a couple of 100 yards. But the authorities didn't allow them to do that. That to get on a coach, join a traffic jam, and take 3/4 of an hour to drive to Wembley. So that's just an example of how the modern elite sportsman is sort of inside a gilded cage. And naturally, I mean, there's only so much time I can talk like anyone else, but just to talk about developments in hotels, besides the development in sports and their use of hotels, there's very much a coming together, and bearing in mind Ray Van Plu's talk yesterday about how sports and sports clubs are business-like. Now you've very much got stadiums building hotels as part of the sort of commercial package. This is the Yorkshire cricket ground, and the rugby ground is sort of next door. So there's dozens of rooms, each one with a nameplate with a famous Yorkshire player outside the door, and there's your view of the cricket ground. So not only are you getting mixed use of a sports stadium, you're also getting sort of, in the case of Lee in Manchester, you're getting what they call a sports village. So you've got a stadium, a hotel, and you've got sort of maximising the use of your property, your amenities. So you've got rugby league one day, a conference or a wedding reception at the hotel, or in the case of Lee Sports Village, you've got Sir Elton John dropping in his helicopter to play a concert. So who knows what the future holds for hotels. Thank you for listening.
Thank you.